All right.
Your destination at 11:19.
All right. So this is the day we finally visit the salt mines. It's gonna be two mines, one here in Bochnia and one in Wieliczka. Actually, it's a really long tour. I don't know what they will explain, but the first tour is 3 hours long, and the second one is, I think, 2. Alright, so we're finally getting in at the Bochnia Salt Mine. So it's actually the oldest salt mine here in Poland. Cool. So guys, we're going downstairs, down the mine, 212 meters down the mine exactly. Actually quite fast. The tour guide said it's 4 meters per second, and now you can. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're taking a train 200 meters below ground. I didn't understand much, but I think the miners say God bless before descending. So we're right now in the St. Kingus Chapel, which was built in 1747, and it's actually the most well-preserved chapel over here in Bochnia's mine. Mining was a really dangerous job, of course, being 200 meters underground, you know, long hours, you never see the sun and so on. So the miners became increasingly religious, and they needed actually a chapel. And this chapel, St. Kingus Chapel, well, being built in 1747, it was actually enlarged several times. So we're currently walking one of the tunnels down here. These tunnels are kilometers in length. They actually had horses down here pulling the carriages.
Drodzy panowie, tutaj widzimy, jak na głowach ci górnicy mają kaptury. Kaptury wykonane bądź ze skóry, bądź materiału, w zależności od tego, ile górnik pracował i jakie miejsce w kopalni hierarchicznej zajmował. Górnik naprawdę miał wtedy bardzo duży problem. Musiał położyć się na kopalnianej podłodze, czyli na kopalnianej spągu. Dotykając rękami podłoża, musiał pełznąć w kierunku najbliższej kaplicy. Jak dotarł do kaplicy...
So we just visited the Sator's shaft, which is the oldest shaft over here in Bochnia Salt Mine. Actually, the legend goes that a Hungarian princess was married to a Polish prince, and this Hungarian princess threw her ring away in Hungary, and then it was actually found here in Bochnia Mine in Poland. And this ring was actually taken out together with the first grain of salt here in Bochnia Mine, and that's how Sator's shaft came about. By the way, the meaning of Sator's shaft is cobbler's shaft, but the title of the place doesn't correspond to the legend. The story is actually different. It turns out that the first written document mentioned the Cobbler's Hill, and a relatively big share of salt and share of financials over here at that time was owned by the Shoemakers Guild. And that's why the title of the first shaft is the shoemaker's, cobbler's, or in the Latin name, suture's shaft. Alright, so obviously mining is a difficult task, and it can be made easier if you use horses all around the mine to transport things, to carry things, and so on. So in the 1760s, they built a stable. And right now, we are in the stable. It's called the Mizior stable. And they actually used to keep the horses here until 1968. No, sorry, until 1963. So the 20th century. And this was the stable over here. It's very, very dark. But you can see some things, and I even filmed some things. So let's try to go further and see if you can see anything.
Tam się odpoczywa, tam jest tak niby restauracja, ale teraz dzisiaj szkolenie mają. To co? Spróbujemy go włączyć, oglądamy? No, jeśli nam pójdzie, to bo ja nie wiem, co by z tym było. Nie, po angielsku pójdzie od razu, bo on będzie napisy miał, a pójdzie po polsku.
Złoty interes. Nie można jej sfałszować. Jest używana do wymiany, tak jak później pieniądze. Potrzeba jej bez przerwy do konserwacji żywności i do solenia surowych skór. W tej
Na co prawda mówi?
Nie widzą do góry, no widzicie. Idziemy na wyższy poziom.
Alright, so right now we're in the washing chamber, which is the biggest chamber over here. It's 14 meters wide. So salt was actually extracted here from the 17th up to the 20th century. And for those of you wondering about the temperature in these chambers, it's around 14, 15, 16 degrees Celsius. And because this chamber is so big, it was just obvious, I guess, to build a cafeteria here. There's honestly tons of stuff over here. I'm still walking the same chamber. Okay, and one more addition to the washing chamber is a hotel. Take a look at this. Exit the hotel, you come here, and there's a disco place here. Alright, so this is the last stop of the day. It's the Wieliczka Salt Mine. It's a little bit more touristy than Bochnia Salt Mine that we were at a couple, well, not even a couple, an hour ago or so. However, I think this one should be quite interesting as well. And since it's more touristy, From what I understood, the tour will be in English, or the tour guide. I'm not sure if it's going to be audio or there will be a person explaining. Probably not as personal touch as Bochnia over there, but I think it should still be quite an experience. I think it's going to be, again, still not sure, 1 or 2 hours long, but definitely not as long as in Bochnia. Alright, so compared to Bochnia, this is a manual descent over here, and we gotta do 800 stairs going down to the depth of, I think, 60 meters. Right, so what's pretty cool is that just like in Bochnia Salt Mine, everything is made from, mostly everything is made from wood over here.
How can I take it with me to Poland? I thought while looking at a salt mine that my father gave me as a wedding gift. I left my homeland for Krakow, where I was to marry Prince Bolesław. My father, the King of Hungary, wanted to give me gold and jewels, but I asked him for salt. They have no salt in Poland, I explained to my father, and thus I was given an entire salt mine and a dozen miners.
So what's actually interesting is that these walls look dark, but if you check them under the light, they are actually very, very pure, and you can actually see the salt. So it's just, if you look without light, they look black and dark. Even here in Wieliczka, they used horses for over 500 years, or about that, up until the middle of the 20th century. And during the peak time of horses, there were around 50 horses working here, carrying the salt and helping the miners work in this mine. So we just descended to level 2, which is 19 meters below ground. Walking through one of the holes, Holy Cross Chapel. So I think that, this mine has several chapels.
This one includes wooden altar with Christ crucified and 2 kneeling marks, which are strongly lit and melted by humid air. One of the oldest statues in the salt mine, from one of the most beautiful places in the salt mine, another chapel dedicated to Saint Kinga.
We're now going to the other chapel, which is called Saint Kingus.
There is a mass celebrated as well as on special occasions, Saint Kinga's Day, Saint Barbara's Day, or Christmas Eve.
So we are 100 meters below ground, and we're actually gonna go see the St. Kingus Chapel. You can have weddings here, and there's a mass held every Sunday, concerts.
These amazing buildings are for construction, one of them wall from salt bricks in front of you.
So I realized I didn't say anything about the mine itself in general. So similarly to Bochnia mine, this was first founded in the 13th century, and it operated just like I think a couple of years more than Bochnia Salt Mine. I think Bochnia Salt Mine operated until the year 1990, and Wieliczka mine operated until 1996. And of course, the salt prices started falling, so it simply wasn't financially attractive anymore as it was for all these hundreds of centuries. So we're around 130 meters underground, And since Wieliczka is more touristy, as I explained in the beginning, there are restaurants here. As you can see, you can buy things, souvenir shops, and not just one, but several. All right, so as you noticed, I ran out of battery and actually filmed some shots on my iPhone. This is my GoPro. That was Wieliczka Salt Mine. Pretty cool as well. Tons of interactive things. That's most probably because Wieliczka is a lot more touristy, like I said. That was it for today. Complete immersion in salt mines and miners' lives. And now we're off to the hotel. That is around half an hour from here. So I'll see you tomorrow morning.